Hey, it's me. It's animated me. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and it's time for another episode of Completed It. Movie reviews, pop culture, celebrity guests, and all that good stuff. Oh, and my good friend over there, Sasha Alari, is my co-host. Hey, Satch, hit the titles, brother. Welcome back to another episode of Completed It. I am your host, Andy Burrows, and as you can see, I am not joined by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Sasha Alari. We have a suitable stand-in for a great film review. Neil, how are you, sir?
I am good, sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Well, you and I are here to review the Michael B. Jordan movie, Sinners. You went to the media screening
I did.
in the week, my friend. I saw it last night. So what did you think before we break it down? I mean, I know you texted me straight away. I hadn't seen it, and you were just like, "Wow." I saw it last night and text you and was like, "Wow, what an incredible movie, my friend."
Oh yeah. That was it was shocking how good it was. It was shocking how much I enjoyed that film.
What did you was it a Michael B. Jordan was so used to he's been obviously Ryan Coogler directed this movie.
Yeah.
Obviously done he worked with Michael B. Jordan many times before.
Mhm.
Obviously on Creed as well. Did you think this was a obviously a different role for Michael B. Jordan? Obviously for he played two roles in this movie. Obviously he played Smoke and Stack, who are brothers
Yeah.
in this movie. We're going to try and do this review without giving away too many spoilers because it's literally
Right.
come out 2 days ago, but we'll do our best.
Mhm.
What did you think of Michael B. Jordan in this movie? Was it a risk for him doing something like this? Because he's not been
Um,
stereotyped already, but I
mhm.
thought for him this has opened up a whole new avenues for him. I thought this was a
Yeah.
movie where I'm like, wow, this guy. I already knew he was an incredible actor, but when you
Mhm.
get into this movie, playing dual roles is never easy. You look at like someone like Tom Hardy's done it
Yeah.
before. Never easy. What did you think of Michael B. Jordan in this movie? I thought it was a great thing for him to do.
Yeah, I think he was flawless in this movie. He gave nuances to both Smoke and Stacks. He I think also it's a bit odd because when I think of Michael B. Jordan, I do think, oh, he's somewhat kind of typecasted in like a very particular role. Like Creed is the thing that you kind of most think of him as. And yes, he's done many performances before then, and many performances after playing Donna's Creed. But it's not as much of a leap because I think it's really easy to forget that he played Killmonger in Black Panther.
Hmm.
And, you know, Killmonger wasn't like the nicest of people. So him playing this role, it was a stretch because he's playing two roles at the same time. But I think he like hand to glove, he fit very well doing this.
What did you like most about this movie? So this movie is essentially, again, I'm going to try and do this spoiler free. This movie is set
Yeah.
in 1932 America.
Yeah.
Uh, Smoke and Stacks come back from Chicago, having done a huge robbery, and they're trying to basically spend their money setting up a juke joint in their local where they were from, where they were brought up
Yeah.
from. They wanted it for a place for the black community to come to play music, to sing, to dance, to eat, to drink. But
Mhm.
essentially, them two wanted to make some motherfucking money.
That's right.
That's what they wanted to do. But lo and behold, the money leads to their cousin Sammy getting invested.
Mhm.
Him being an incredible musician, by the way,
Yeah.
which in tell leads to him luring in vampires.
Yes.
Have I kind of done that right without giving away too many spoilers?
You have. I think it's not it wouldn't be a spoiler to say that there is a mysticism to his abilities of playing music. That is it's a mysticism that is essentially the the most non-spoilery way I can say it is he's a musical prodigy.
Yes, I
But
like that. I
Yeah, he's
like
a
that.
musical prodigy, and that is what attracts the bad guys.
Yeah, where does this sit for you, Neil? I mean, I'm kind of new to the whole vampire-y movie scene.
Oh,
I've never liked it, but this one, as soon as I saw the trailer for Sinners, and obviously doing what me and Sash do now, as you've
yeah.
seen on this show, I probably spend more time at Odeon than I do anywhere else. This automatically got me, and I'm like, oh, this is not usually my kind of genre of film, but I was like, I'm good. I love Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Everything he's been in, I don't think he's made a bad movie. Where does this sit for you? You obviously watched a lot more vampire movies than me.
Yes.
Where does Sinners rank?
I think okay, so I'm gonna point out some stuff. So I love vampire movies. I think I like vampire movies. They're my second favorite subgenre of horror movies. And
What's your first?
slashers, just
There we go.
slashers. So slashers, then vampires, and everything else. And I've watched so many over the years that I could like just pluck out ones and be like, yeah, that one's great, that one's great, that one's great. And be like, oh, Near Dark, or From Dusk Till Dawn, or Blade, or whatever. And this sits easily, I'm gonna say top five.
Ooh,
Top five movies that I've been like absolutely adored that are vampire movies. Easily
wow.
top five. And I'm to give you context, in January, I reviewed Nosferatu. I gave it a 10.
Jeez.
Some people were like, that's too high.
Yeah.
I looked at it from the filmmaking, the storytelling, the technical aspect, everything together. The film is a 10. It is a masterpiece. It's the only 10 I've ever given.
Wow.
Sinners is a 9.5.
Ooh, what stopped it getting a 10?
There were some technical aspects that I understood why they were there, but in my personal opinion, the execution didn't match the idea.
Hmm.
And that is like I had to pull it down because I was like, I've watched Sinners twice. I saw it at the media
Yeah,
screening.
this only been out, well, effectively, it only come out yesterday, but he obviously went
Yeah.
to the multimedia screening. He's seen it twice already. We're recording this on Saturday morning. It's only been out 24 hours.
Yeah. I watched it at the media screening, immediately went home and I immediately went home and said to my wife, I said, listen, what are you doing Friday? And she was like, oh, I've got no plans. So we got plans. We got plans.
What
Booked
was the
tickets
wife's review?
immediately. She loved it.
Same,
And
same boat as you.
yeah,
Absolutely
and
loved it.
considering she's not a horror movie fan,
Yeah,
I was
see, I'm the same. I'm not really like quote unquote horror movie fan, but this for me wasn't like, shit your pants scary. This was a really
Mhm.
good movie, and it's not something
Yeah.
that I'd necessarily, like I say, necessarily go and watch. I'd recommend this movie to anyone that's going to go and see it. What did you like most about this movie? Again, we're trying to do this spoiler free, but what really, as this is your genre, so I'm going
Yeah.
to lean on you for this, Neil.
Okay.
What really stood out for you in this movie that maybe doesn't in other vampire movies?
What stood out for me in this movie, firstly, was they took there are many different tropes that turn up in vampires mythology, right? Whether it's films, books, whatever. And they took the right amount of tropes and laced them in, but they laced them in such a way that it's sort of like you wouldn't think about it.
Hmm.
It would be the kind of thing of, if you're at home and you're having a party and a friend of yours is like, I'll be back in a minute, I'm going to the car. And then they get turned when they've gone to the car and then they come back.
Sounds like some of the parties I've been to, actually.
Yeah, right. Tiny little nuances, tiny little details that you'd never think about. Like you'd be at the front door and you'd see your friend and you'd have a regular conversation with them. And it's like,
Not
would
knowing.
you notice this tiny little nuance? And I love that because it to me, with that film, with Sinners specifically, it took the mythology of a vampire and said, how would you notice? How would you know?
Mm.
How much do you pay attention to the people you're with and the people you're around. And you see it when it does happen, and you see it when it doesn't happen.
Okay. Okay. Is this movie, Neil, would you say, is this a good, like someone like me,
Mhm.
not massively into vampire movies, would you
Right.
put Sinners as a good starting point for anyone that thinks, do you know what? Because I speak to a lot of my friends, I've told a few people, my wife included, it's like, "Oh, I went and saw this movie, it was about vampires," and they're just like,
Mhm.
vampires. Bear in mind, these are a lot of the same people that still like the behind you there. You've got Star Wars, they're like all the
Yeah,
Marvel movies. I'm like, hang on, you love them, but you're looking at me like, would Sinners be a good starting point if you were saying to someone, when
absolutely.
against vampire movies, go and see Sinners?
Absolutely. If you have never seen a vampire movie and Sinners was your first, I envy you. I envy you.
Yeah, it was one of my real. I mean, I've watched vampire movies, but for me,
Mhm.
this is the first one I've gone. I'm gonna go and see this. A lot of them I might wait for like to come on Sky or I'll watch them
Yeah.
on Blu-ray. This one for I don't. I'm like you. I'm gonna go and see it again probably sometime next week. I saw it. By the way, anyone going to see this movie, go and see it in IMAX. Wow.
Yes.
I
Yes.
saw it in IMAX in the Odeon in Milton Keynes last night, and it
Mhm.
was yeah. And that film is specifically it says it's made with IMAX cameras. It's made
Yeah.
for IMAX. I mean, I went and saw Warfare in IMAX the other day, and they put a big
Mhm.
spoiler at the start of the movie saying this movie is not for IMAX. And I'm thinking, there's me sitting there watching it in IMAX. But yeah, this movie, Sinners, was absolutely incredible. But Neil, what makes a good vampire movie? Did this hit all the spots for you again without
Oh,
giving it
it
away,
did.
spoiler
It did.
free? Because it was a good for me. The introduction was good because it slowly built all the characters, which was good. It wasn't just straight into the blood and gore. Because half
Mhm.
into it, I'm thinking, what the fuck are the vampires actually turning up in this movie? Because
Yeah.
I'd seen the trailer and I'm thinking to myself,
Mhm.
how are they going to do this? And then it clicked with me with Sammy. Sammy, anyone who goes to see this, Sammy the cousin plays a pivotal role in this
Yes.
movie. Smoke and Stacks play a role,
Yeah.
but it all revolves around Sammy. I mean, were you kind of the same? You've seen so many vampire movies.
Yeah.
For you, were you like, hang on a minute, how are they going to do this? And then it
No,
clicks.
I think for me, because like piece of useless information, I am like an amateur screenwriter myself.
No, that's not useless information, my friend.
Right. Right. So I know that one of the key things to make a really good movie is you need to get people invested in the characters before everything kicks in.
Hmm.
And with Sinners, you're immediately invested in three main people above all else: Sammy, Smoke, and Stacks. Right? Smoke and Stacks, they're a combined unit, so you're invested in those two and Sammy. You meet Sammy, you understand his life, you really get a sense of who he is and the position he's in, like basically the crossroads that he's at.
Hmm.
And then you meet Smoke and Stacks, and you're like, okay, I've seen this person who immediately is like, okay, here's the road you need to walk down. And they're telling Sammy, this is the road you need to walk down. And then you meet Smoke and Stacks, and they're like, this is a road you could walk down.
Hmm.
And you're invested in him as a character. I'm not gonna say what it is that the thing, but there's a conversation Sammy has with Stacks. Yeah, that conversation, and then the payoff to that conversation a little later. Genius.
It was. It was. What
It
did you
was,
make of the supporting cast in this movie, Neil?
oh,
Obviously, some
everyone
great
did.
supporting cast. I mean,
Yeah,
like you say, Michael B. Jordan plays the main character, Smoke and Stacks. You've got Sammy,
yeah.
but the supporting cast in it, everyone, and this
Mhm.
isn't a spoiler. People like it's a vampire movie. People do get turned, so they've gone from
Yeah.
playing one part in this movie
Mhm.
to 20 minutes later potentially playing a vampire without giving too
Yeah.
much away. What did you make of all that?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. There were some choices that I think maybe if I were in charge, they would have been slightly different.
Hmm.
But but in context, when you look at them as a whole, they worked. Like there were things where, certain characters had I will say that they weren't as observant, or
Hmm.
they weren't as observant as they once were once they became a vampire. Because, it's like if you saw someone being bitten, you'd notice.
It
So when
might
you're
stand
like
out a
just
bit.
in a conversation with someone else and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so yeah, when are we gonna do this? And you're like, Can you not see what's going on?
Yeah.
You're like,
Hello.
oh, that. Oh, it's fine. Right. That I was like, yeah, I think every single Delroy Lindo, wow.
Wow. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Neil, running theme through this movie as well. Again,
Mhm.
trying my best not to spoiler free.
Yep.
Is there many quote unquote love stories in vampire movies? Because the way they done it in Sinners,
Hmm.
I thought led into a certain part of a movie at there's a little bit at the end and there's another
Yes,
certain part. Is that for you again? I'm leaning on you so much in this episode, my friend.
that's fine.
As a big vampire movie watcher, it was this kind of quote unquote love stories that play in this
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah.
Did they do it well?
Now perfectly. Perfectly. Because as I said, you have to you have to be invested in the characters before everything happens. Because if you're not, then it's just they're cannon fodder. They're just food. Oh, the random party goer number four. Oh, they've been bitten. I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
You know,
You
but
look them up on IMDb and they are random party goer for.
exactly. And I'm like watching this, and at the moment where everything kicks off, like really kicks off, the dramatic irony in Sinners is amazing because I was sitting there watching it, and you felt like when you see this person who is romantically linked with that person, and you know what's happened, they don't know what's happened, and you're like, no, don't do it, don't do it, stay,
Yeah.
don't go in that room. And it's like, yeah. And it's because it makes it a personal choice now. Because now
Mm.
it's what would you do in that situation if the person that you love, that you genuinely love and you genuinely want to keep safe, regardless of vampires or not, just I want to keep you safe in this world. What do you do when they've been turned?
Mm. Yeah.
How do you look at it? And it's you've got because there was romantic love, there was family love, there was the bond of friendship love, and all of
It
these
kind of hit on
subsets of
everything that
love.
you want in a movie, right?
Yeah. And it's like in all honesty, a lot of vampire movies do that very poorly.
Mm.
A lot of them do because maybe they struggle to show you like a reason for why you need to care about this person's relationship. But in Sinners, they were like, no, here's a reason why these two are together. Here's a reason why these two aren't together. Here's the reason why you want these two to be together. And then everything kicks in.
What makes a good vampire movie, Neil? Would you say? Obviously, we're talking about Sinners, and you said you're ranking this in your top five of all time. So
Yeah.
what set this apart from other ones that you've seen before?
Right. Being invested in the characters is one. Two, the vampires, they were you can have, in my opinion, there are multiple different types of vampires. One thing that a lot of people lean on when they're making a vampire film is the vampires have to be alluring. They have to kind of draw you in. And that's a vampire drawing you in if you don't know them is kind of a difficult thing to do. Yet the vampires, the way that they draw you, like I'm trying to say things without being
Yeah, I got
any
you.
spoilers, but the fact that the majority of the vampires you come across are individuals that you've seen before prior
Hmm.
is a really good thing because it's again what I said, random party goer number four becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
Now it's like random vampire number two. You're not going to care about that.
Hmm.
Whereas you see these vampires and you're like, okay, I know who you are. Also, they have a very classic look to them. They're not like the best example I give you is like Blade 2. They've got the whole thing where the bottom of the mouth opens up and they,
Hmm.
super that, you've got it where people turn really pale and then they're like, oh, that's a vampire, pale as a ghost. You know, it's there's nothing about these vampires that if you on a late night walked past one, you would notice and be like, something's off with that person. Right? Vampires are supposed to be the kind of thing that they just blend into a crowd.
Mm.
That's just my opinion of it. Obviously, Bram Stoker was like,
Yeah.
no, yeah, but they just they blend into a crowd and they kind of just sneak out, grab you, and they disappear.
Mm.
So for me, what makes a good vampire film is good vampires, which we have, good victims, survivors, foes for vampires. That's number two. Setting is important because it's not a spoiler, but you know, Sinners takes place in one spot,
True.
essentially. For the whole for the
Yeah, it gets to
majority
the
of
main.
runtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in one surfaced area, right? When you've got vampires and they're running all over a city, and it's like you do realize that like you only have a certain amount of time to be doing all of this
Yeah. As
because
soon as that
sun's
sun
coming
comes
up.
up, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that, and also um sticking to the rules. There are certain rules when dealing with a vampire. Everyone, even if you don't watch the rules, even if you don't watch films, you kind of know what the rules are. Sunlight, wooden stake to the heart,
Garlic.
holy water, garlic. Those are the big deals. It's like as long as you've got one or all of those, we're pretty good to go.
Sinners hit on that really well as well.
Yeah, and it's the fact that Sinners hit on it in such a way that it's sort of like, oh, I'm watching a film about vampires. Holy water. We're like, you're not in a place to get holy water. Okay, so what else do you have? And it's the way that all of these tiny little details happened to be in place when, the vampires turned up.
Mm. Done very well, I thought.
Yes. And also
Done
there
very
were
well.
callbacks to other movies, not necessarily vampire movies. So not, we're not gonna say because of spoilers,
Hmm.
but the moment where it was like, let's find out who is and who isn't,
Yep.
beautiful callback to, a very old 80s movie. And I was like, yeah, I like that. And also the entire movie is sort of like a homage to a very famous vampire movie. And I'm not gonna say what that is because I don't want people to be spoiled and go in with an idea.
Preconception. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Something else that really stood out in this movie, Neil. I don't know. I've already put it on my Spotify. I thought the soundtrack was
Oh,
incredible. A
yeah.
lot of that goes unnoticed in movies sometimes. I thought the
Yes, it does.
soundtrack made big parts of this movie. What did you make of it?
Absolutely adored it. I mean, the big musical performance,
Hmm.
I wasn't a fan of.
Okay.
I don't think that every element blended together as well as it could have. And I was hoping, I was thought maybe that's just, the first time I watched it. And admittedly, the second time I watched it, it did kind of fit a bit better. But the elements that I didn't like, I still didn't like.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah, I immediately like went to my Spotify. Let me see what tracks are on this
yeah.
Sinners soundtrack. Yeah, I thought it was incredible. I think I probably know where you're going to go with this, but you have to give this movie a rating out of 10.
Yep.
What are you giving it?
9.5.
9.5, really that high?
Yeah. I watched it the second time I watched it, I
Did
was like,
anything stand out different in the second time you watched it to the first time?
yes, there were certain elements that I didn't there were certain elements that I just didn't catch the first time round because first time I'm trying to absorb everything.
Hmm.
Um the connectivity between certain characters, as in like, so you have certain characters who spoke a certain way when we first meet them, and then later on they can speak a different way. Yeah, there was a whole kind of connectivity amongst a group of characters that I was like, okay. I saw it and didn't really pay attention to it the first time, and the second time I was like, I see exactly what's happened. This is brilliant.
Mm.
So yeah, that really stood
Yeah,
out.
I'm with you. I'm 9.5, 9.67. For me, again, not being a big vampire
Mm-hmm.
movie go. I'm very much in the genre of like Marvel, DC,
Yeah.
etc., and anything else that could. I've just recently seen the Amateur. I'm going to go and see the Drop later this weekend. Them kind of movies are much. But for me, and again, like I said at the start of the show, anyone that thinks vampire movies, this could change your mind because it kind of did with me. I saw it and I thought, I want to see more of these kind of movies. So I'm open for recommendations, Neil. So you can
I will
text
have a
me.
list ready.
Yeah, you can have it. Sasha's already done it with the Mission Impossibles. On our last episode, I
Yep.
told him that I wasn't really a fan of the Mission Impossible movies. Didn't go down well with him. He told me to start from movie number three. He said, forget the first two, start from
Mm.
three and carry on. Which I don't know, might split opinion
I
amongst people.
I would I would agree, but the way I would agree is watch from 3 to 7,
Okay.
then watch 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because
Choice.
1 and 2 are very different movies. The rest from number 3 onwards, essentially it's like Fast and Furious.
Gotcha.
The first Fast and Furious, their main goal is to steal DVD players.
Yeah.
By Fast 5, they're saving the world.
Yeah, they're jumping out of planes with cars and oh my God,
Yeah. So there is there's some hills and valleys until they reach a point where you say, okay, now we found our tone, and this is the tone going forward. Mission Impossible 1 and 2 aren't that tone.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. That's two people now. So I'm definitely going to go on it. Neil, while you're here, everyone watching on YouTube can see your Empire Strikes Back poster behind you. Star Wars announced yesterday that we are going to get a new Star Wars movie in 2027.
Hmm.
Satch, I know I grew up with this boy. I hosted a show with him and I heard how much he loves Star Wars. I think
Yes.
he's poo-pooed all these already. What did you make of the Star Wars announcements yesterday that we're essentially going to get a brand new Star Wars movie?
Mm, I think the problem I have with it, I'm I'm all for movies coming out. I don't care. Like Star Wars, you want to make 100 Star Wars movies, go ahead. But I think it's finding the right avenue to make a film within a certain place. You can make a Star Wars film. It doesn't need the best way I can describe it is Mandalorian as a show
Hmm.
works perfectly because you're not sitting there waiting to see Darth Vader or Luke
Yeah,
Skywalker
yeah.
or Han Solo. And I think making a film within a rule set of here's an established world, make a movie within this. I'm always going to be for that. I'm always going to be for that. Just don't contradict, what is there.
Mm.
New Star Wars films, I'm like, let me find out when it's set and who is going to be in it.
I think they said this one 10 years after Rise of Skywalker.
Then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
okay
that's what I
with
read
10
this
years after
morning when
Rise of
I was
Skywalker.
briefly looking through. Was there a point? I mean, I get into this with friends and obviously
Mhm.
people watching this and people in our WhatsApp group who will no doubt comment. Was there a
Yeah.
point with like when you use the Star Wars franchise as an example? Was there a point either maybe with the original
Mhm.
trilogy with the reboots where enough was enough with the movies. I think because the world we live in now, and me and my wife speak about this all the time with like reboots, and then
Yeah.
they're kind of rehashing stuff. I
Mhm.
think the world we live in now, and the money, it's
Mhm.
more. It's I think sometimes movies now are more about the name, like you've got there
Yeah.
behind you, Star Wars name,
Mhm.
than what the movie's going to be like. They're like, it's Star Wars. It's going to make God knows how many billions of dollars purely because it's Star Wars. People are going to see this movie whether you think they should have ended after Return of the Jedi, whether it should have ended after the Rise of Skywalker, whether you think they should have only made the original three, etc., etc. Was there a good ending point for Star Wars? Will there ever be a case of it going on too long? Because I think it's moving on from generation to generation. You and I grew up with Star
Yeah.
Wars, Luke Skywalker. We get it, we love it. It's going to go down as probably one of the most iconic movie franchises of all time.
Yeah.
Was there a point, A, where they should have stopped it, and
Mhm.
B, do you think they're just doing it now for the sake of because it's quote unquote Star Wars?
Um, in reverse order, they are just doing it because it's Star Wars.
Hmm.
That is, I mean, you don't like I'm not a billionaire, but you don't pay billions for a franchise to be like, here's the end point,
Yeah.
right? It is a thing that keeps going. How I think with Star Wars, well, with any franchise, I'm going to be honest, with any franchise, there's never a stop point
True.
because, and I will say this, hopefully people don't, come out with pitchforks for this. No good story has a complete ending.
Mhm.
And the reason I will say that is because when you deal with heroes and villains, when the hero triumphs, when the hero vanquishes the villain, you always at a point where you leave the door open for a bigger, badder villain.
Mm.
Avengers
Hence
1,
every Marvel movie having an
yeah,
end credit scene.
but that's the thing is like you look at Marvel's perfect example, the Avengers movie, the first one, they defeat Loki. Loki was strong enough and smart enough and savvy enough to take everyone out individually. He dealt with the Avengers with ease. You're like, okay, cool, that's done. Then he was done. Then they had Ultron, and it's Ultron kind of did the same thing, but essentially Ultron was a bigger, badder version, right? He
Mm.
was a bigger, badder version of Ultron. It was like, okay, Loki took out Loki was a problem to New York City. Ultron was a problem to the country of Sokovia. Thanos was a problem to the entire universe. Each step, each time it happened, the problem got bigger, you
Mm.
know, and that's what happens with all good stories is when you take out the villain, you leave the spot for a bigger villain to come. And even, there are many films where, I think it happens more in like anime and stuff, where you have the hero, you see the hero, and maybe the start of the film is the hero gets killed. And then we fast forward 10 years later, and it's the child of the hero or the student of the hero. And they have to rise up and become a bigger and better version of that original hero. So there's never going to be a point in any kind of fantasy type film, any film that we really have heroes and villains, there isn't going to be a good ending point. There's going to be a point where you're like, I'm happy if I never see anything beyond this point.
Yeah, is that where we are with Star Wars, would you say now? Are we at the
Yeah.
point now, right, where they go, right, again, me and you grew up with the era of Luke
Yeah,
Skywalker
we
and
go with
Leia.
the
We grew up with that era, right?
Mhm.
Are we at a point now in 2025
Mhm.
or coming into what was going to be a quote unquote new era? So we've done Rise of Skywalker. That
Yeah.
kind of put a bookmark on everything we grew up with. From
Yes.
albeit it's very up for argument's sake. A lot of people are like, no, I don't acknowledge them movies. But bottom line is it put a
Stamp
marker
on
down.
it.
It's stamped, it's done, it's ended. As we fast forward to 2027 with the new movie, are we going to be at a point of now we're taking everything that we've done and
Mhm.
we're going to try and not attract a new fan base? Because let's be honest, me and you are going to go and see the movie.
Yeah.
But are there a point now where they're like, right, we're not going to do so many throwbacks to the Vaders, the Leias, the Lukes? You might get little nuances in the movies. Do you
Mhm.
think we're now at a point in the Star Wars franchise where we're going to go, right, this is all new, that's done?
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should reach a point where we're dealing with new characters, new storylines, new threats, because you've got the basis that you need. You've got the Force, so you always have Force sensitive children or whatever. So that's one thing.
Hmm.
That's all you need there. Um, you've got the good guys and you've got the bad guys. And you're set in space, you've got multiple different planets, so you have a good basis, you have a good skeleton, and you can just apply whatever meat you want on it. I mean, to nicest way I can sum it up in dealing with specifically with Star Wars is it's going to be completely left field. I'm a very big wrestling fan as well
Oh,
as
dude, WrestleMania weekend this weekend.
yes, it
Can't wait,
is.
by the way. Can't wait.
Now, one thing I noticed is that when I started watching wrestling, which was the very early 90s, when I started watching wrestling, they would tell you, okay, these people are the they're the standard, they're the heroes and villains of the age.
Hmm.
And you had Ric Flair, who had the most amount of championship wins ever. And then
Till the
you had,
weekend.
yeah, you had Bruno San Martino, the longest reigning champion. You had all of these people who'd done, they'd set all the linchpins, they'd set all the markers. And now, watching wrestling 30 years later, all of those people are being replaced. The longest reigning Intercontinental Champion was a guy called the Honky Tonk Man. Now it's a guy called Gunter, who's
Mm.
currently wrestling. So
Roman Reigns was the longest modern day era
yeah, he's
champion
the longest
after Hulk Hogan.
because yeah,
Yeah,
he's the longest modern day reigning champion, and the only two people who beat him were Hulk Hogan and Bruno
Bruno
Sammartino.
Sammartino. Yeah.
Right now, Roman would never beat those two records because the whole industry is different. But that
Mm.
is neither here nor there. The point was the longest reigning tag team champions in history currently wrestle. The longest reigning intercontinental champion currently wrestles. So you don't have to go back 30, 40, 50 years to be like, that's the longest reigning champion.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of what
Movies are
needs to
doing that.
happen with Star Wars,
Yeah.
where it needs to be, yes, we will always acknowledge that Luke Skywalker existed, Darth Vader existed, the Emperor existed, Han Solo existed. But you need a new generation. That generation needs their own Han Solo who's not connected, especially not, in a family relation way to anyone in this.
Hmm.
One of the interesting things about, whether people like the sequel trilogy or not, one of the interesting things that came was with Ray, not Ray, sorry, with Poe and with Finn. They weren't connected to anybody. They weren't someone's grandson. They weren't someone's nephew or niece, or they weren't
Mm.
connected. And Ray, I hold my hands up. I'm not a Last Jedi fan,
No, I don't think
but
you are.
I,
Don't worry
but I like
about
one thing I did like was when they said, Ray, you're no one. You're not connected to anybody. You're
it.
nobody's
Mm.
niece. You're nobody's granddaughter. You're nobody's daughter. That was brilliant because it's the Spider-Man mythos. Anyone can be Spider-Man under that mask because you can't see his mouth, you can't see any,
Hmm.
you don't know who it is. It could be a woman under there. You just don't know. But the second you become someone's grandchild, the second you become someone's niece, the second you become someone's, you know, like second cousin twice removed, the second you become this,
Yeah.
now you're stuck being trapped to this. Star Wars is a universe, and you're saying that only this one ruling family managed to produce all these heroes. It's it's just that thing that is now I don't have to be invested in it.
Mm.
Mandalorian did that well because it's set at a time when all these heroes exist, but you don't really need them invested. We had that one time where we had
Luke Skywalker
where
turned
Luke
up.
Skywalker turn up, right?
Hmm.
Which was amazing. That was an absolute just wow, chef's kiss moment.
Yeah.
But then he was gone.
Mm. But then you
And
had
it's
Obi-Wan, where him and Vader
yeah,
made
you had
serious
Obi-Wan
series.
come. And the thing is, I think Obi-Wan as a show didn't live up to the expectation because it was about these characters that were just you're rehashing these characters. You're basically digging them up and parading the bones around.
Yeah. Easy money.
Right. Yeah, Mandalorian works because it's not invested in that. I think I
Mm.
haven't seen it yet, but Skeleton Crew
Oh,
works
dude,
because
you're in for a treat.
yeah, you think of the Star Wars products that have worked since Disney took over. The ones that work the best aren't directly connected to your Skywalker legacy,
Mm.
and I think
We're,
that's what needs to happen.
we're gonna have to get you in a room with. We have to get you on with Sash when he's back, and let you. I might just sit there and let you two talk Star Wars. But Neil, it's been amazing to have you on the show, my man.
It's been
Thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much. I'm glad you enjoyed the media day with Warner Brothers for Sinners, my man. You've seen it twice already.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to get you back on the show, my man. I hope you enjoyed your time with us.
Oh, I absolutely did, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem. If you want to check out this show, you can go onto YouTube. Just type in Completed It Pod, all one word. You'll find us there. Hit like, subscribe. You'll find this show with myself and Neil. Me and Sasha are going to be back on Sunday. We sit down with Toro Masamu, who played Shredder in the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie with like Megan Fox and Johnny Knoxville, etc., etc. Then we're back the following week with some great guests lined up. We've got some great shows, but we'll definitely get Neil back on. But yeah, if you want to find us on YouTube at Completed It Pod, but also on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can find us there, Completed It Pod. But till next time, everybody, I've been your host, Andy Burrows. Stay safe.